the IndyCar series out there, they'll get a practice session in 242 just before 4. But first things first, we have the Radical Cup North America, and they are going to get in their first race of this weekend coming up here in just a couple of moments. We're looking right now around the track just to make sure that the track is cleared so that everything is going to be ready to go for those drivers. So right now, let's turn you over to coverage for Radical Cup here at Barber Motorsports Park.
Well, welcome if you're at this race circuit or around the world watching on the RadicalMotorsport.com live stream. It's Barber Motorsports Park, and it is round 4, race 4 of this championship. And 18 races, 6 events. And this one at the 2.38 mile, 17-turn Barber Motorsport Park. Of course, we saw lots of action in this morning's qualifying session. There was some big news, though, post-session, and that was Danny Dashelski being relegated to the back of the grid for a team infraction during the Parc Ferme conditions. He will start on the 18th row of the grid from position 36 alongside Mike Ellis. And watch for the 88 to come charging through the field. He's a very fast young gun. Finished runner-up in the championship yesterday. But we'll expect him to charge hard. Now we're just waiting for the cars to trundle down pit lane. I think I might get a head start on this grid because there's 36 cars starting this one. And as we mentioned, Dashelski and Mike Ellis on row 18. On row 17, it's Kenny Nail alongside Carl Fredrickson. And then we're to Eric Griffin and Ben Blander from position 31. Now Ben was quite quick in the Pro 1340s, but not quick enough, and not as quick as one of his teammates who put it on the pole. We'll get to that in a minute. From the 15th row of the grid, it's David Mason alongside Keith McGovern. His son, Blake McGovern, who was just crowned champion at Apex Motor Club, will start from the 14th row of the grid alongside Jack Zwiffel. And Chris McMurray, who you can follow along with his Radical journey. If you check out Radical Motorsports YouTube page, you can, and for that matter, Racer.com, you can follow along with Chris as he takes us through this season. Some interesting stories, including the most recent episode, which dives into John Falb and some others, Radical competitors that have gone all the way from the country club right through up to Le Mans. And Chris will start alongside Suelo Almeida. Now, Suelo has a interesting story as well. He is a sim racer turned real world racer, and Almeida does a lot of coaching online, has a lot of pro drivers that he shares tips and tricks with. So putting all of that into practice in the Radical Cup North America Series. And I firmly expect that Chris McMurray and Suelo Almeida will be ones to watch in the 1340 class. Both of them will be vying to get past PJ Hyatt, who put it on the pole. And PJ Hyatt was a 127.2 in this morning's qualifying session. PJ Hyatt will start from the 12th row of the grid alongside David Flint. David Flint, a independent driver, if you will, or competitor. Doesn't have some of the big teams that come along to the Radical Cup North America Series. It's just him and a mechanic. He works on the car at home and loves his motorsport and loves his Radical racing. Says that the track time that he gets in this series is just second to none. From the 11th row of the grid, it's Greg Folger alongside David Albin. And then from position, the 10th row of the grid, position 20, it's Chris Hunn alongside Arul Venkatesh. And Venkatesh has shown a fair bit of pace. Now we're starting to get into the Pro 1500 mix, if you will. There's 18 cars in this class. Corey Nouveau is another one to watch in this class. Starts from position 18 on the grid from row 9 alongside Mike Anzaldi. Mike Anzaldi, very quick, and was a runner-up in the 1340 championship last year. So he knows how to win. Austin Riley will start position 16 and just ahead of his rival in that championship, Mike Anzaldi. In fact, Austin took the outright championship as well as the Pro 1340 championship. And if you don't know about young Austin, check out racingwithautism.com. Young Austin with an amazing story and has become an ambassador all around the world for kids and people who have autism. And there's actually races in Australia and all around the world that fly under the flag of Racing with Autism. Jack Yang will start alongside him in position 15 as the cars now finally trundle along behind the safety car down pit lane. From the 7th row of the grid, it's Spencer Schmidt. And Schmidt, you're thinking, well, that's an IndyCar name. And it is Sam Schmidt's son. And Spencer was a little bit frustrated with that qualifying session. He said the dash had a much faster time. But unfortunately, he got traffic, and that was an easy thing for a lot of these competitors to do in that qualifying session with so many cars on this relatively small track. Matt Roma will start alongside him from position 13, and one of the many father and sons, his father Chip will start from position 11 just ahead of him alongside Jim Booth in the McDonald's car. From the 5th row of the grid, it will be Evan Slater, who had a very, very strong run in qualifying. Evan was 4th fastest in the Pro 1500 class. He'll start alongside Jordan Missig, and Missig came away with a clean sweep at Sebring, 3 wins, and was on top of the podium there. A very successful return to the Radical Cup North America Series for Jordan Missig. Raiden Nicol was the standout from qualifying, I think, and a young driver just from Georgia. His debut in the series for Primal Racing and Atlanta Motorsport Park, and Raiden will start from the 4th row of the grid. He was pipped at the very last moment in that slightly shortened qualifying session by Nick D'Orlando, who also showed his pace at Sebring in the opening round. And I fully suspect we're going to have a 4, if not 5, 6 car race in Pro 1500. Such is the competition. A lot of guys with a lot of open wheel experience. And then Raiden Nicol, who's comes more from the Miata side of life, but is very, very quick in the prototypes as well, and has been campaigning in SR10 against a mixed bag field of prototypes in the PSSA series, and has been beating the likes of the Revolutions and the Wolves and other cars that enter that series with that radical SR10 of his. This time he's in an SR3 and right up there. From the 3rd row of the grid, it is Wayne Williams alongside Louis Schreiber. Schreiber, look for him as well in the 111. He complained that his car was under boosting and cutting out a little bit. From the 2nd row of the grid, it'll be Ryan Booth alongside Clint Field. And Ryan, the son of Jim, another one of our many father and sons. Clint Field, of course, the son of John Field. And it's Mackay Stevens who will be starting from P2 alongside that man, John Field. And they're nice and tight as they come around the final corner. John Field always seems to squeeze. Mackay is there as well. We've already got a green flag. It's a very early start, and that's allowed John Field to streak away. They're already 3-4 wide as they come down into turn 1. And it looks like everyone is navigating this cleanly. So a good start here for the Radical Cup North America Series as one car run wide. I think that was Mike Anzaldi. Will pick them up as they come down into turn 5. And it's John Field from Mackay Stevens. Then it looks to be the 62 of Booth. That's the younger Booth. So Clint Field has lost out at the start. And it's John Field. In fact, I think it might be Louis Schreiber that's made up a couple of places as well. So down into that chicane near the museum for the first time. And a great start too from Wayne Williams. Little bit of dust being kicked up further back as the cars streak through this high-speed section for the first time. And a good start there for D'Orlando. We'll try and pick up who has taken the lead in Pro 1500. I think it's Nicole who's got the jump. So a strong start from the young gun from Georgia. And Nicole looks to be ahead of D'Orlando. Very, very crucial moment that, the start of the race. John Field in a commanding lead, but he's already having to defend from the 22 of Mackay Stevens. Behind him, it's the 62 of Ryan Booth. Then we're back to Clint Field, Chris Romer, Wayne Williams. So Louis Schreiber has dumped down the order, an issue still for his car. The 111 disaster for him in this race 4 of the championship. Austin Riley, you can see him coming through screen in that Dayglow yellow and blue car, and he was having a look, another look there. That's Jordan Missig to the inside, down at Charlotte's Web, and he looks like he's made it stick. It's nice and tight there though. They're side by side again, and it's Nicole behind him. So jockeying for position as D'Orlando has got ahead of Slater and Missig. Nicole relegated to 4th now in the Pro 1500 class. So perhaps a little bit of a moment for him. More side-by-side action. You can see the cars just taking a little bit of curb there. Possibly some of the drivers just still trying to get that Hankook rubber up to speed. And it looks like we've got a caution. Indeed it is, full course caution. So we'll try and find out where that issue is on the racetrack. So we're just looking at the timing screen, and I think that might be lap times at the moment. That's just trickling across the broadcast here at the track. Out on the live stream, it is accurate with John Field and Mackay Stevens running 1st and 2nd. Ryan Booth 3rd. Clint Field from Chip Romer, Wayne Williams. That's the top 6 overall and the top 6 in the Platinum class. It's D'Orlando from Nicole, Slater and Missig. So again, there's been a little change of position there. And the tow truck has come out on course. So not surprising given that there's so many cars in this field. Relatively tight circuit. Multi-class racing always tends to be a bit of action. So John Field just cruising there, waiting for the safety car to fall back towards him. And Ryan Booth's had a very strong start there. Also too for Chip Romer in the number 5 Stella Artois car. That Dayglow, beautiful Dayglow machine of Wayne Williams with the white side pods coming through screen. And then it's looks like Deshelsky, no, sorry, that is, always get those cars confused now. Deshelsky's former paint job, but it's D'Orlando's current paint job, if you will. And he leads from Ryan Nicole, Evan Slater, Jordan Missig relegated to 4th in Pro 1500. Now try and pick up the guys a bit further back in the field. And 1340 class. It's Chris McMurray who's got the leap on PJ Hyatt. So McMurray back in command of Pro 1340. That seems to be his typical spot, if you will. The top step of that Pro 1340 podium. And Suelo Almeida has not had the best of starts. He's been relegated to 3rd. Didn't manage to sort of keep up with Chris McMurray and eclipse PJ Hyatt on those opening laps. Blake McGovern doing a strong job as well. He's 4th in the Pro 1340 class. His father behind him in 5th. So the issue is down near the museum, and we can see that there's been some people collecting Honda signage on the left-hand side of the circuit. So obviously 3 or 4 wide, does not go down into that right-hander, and a pretty fast moment on the racetrack as the cars just stream down the pit straight. The emergency crews here from Barber Motorsports Park making quick work of all of this. So I hope to go green again in just a moment and get the Radical Cup racing back underway. Stunning shots from this beautiful circuit. David Flint just going through shot. And there's our front of the field now behind the USAC safety car. So the green and black car, Jordan Missick, what can he do on this restart? What will Ryan Nicol do in the black and gold car? Look out for Austin Riley in car 20. And then further back, the Pro 1340 class. That'll be interesting too. Julio Almeida has not too many real-world races to his name. Certainly survived the commotion in the opening couple of laps here. But he's got some work to do if he wants to be on the top step of the Pro 1340 podium. PJ Hyatt was exceptional in qualifying and perhaps raised a few eyebrows in that class. So this is going to go from a 40-minute sprint race effectively into a 30-minute sprint race, I think. Will we get a green this time by? The track looks pretty clear. The starter looks to be preparing a few things, but we're still under full course caution. Stunning sight with all these cars. And it is a green flag. So John Field is back in command of this field. And already cars looking pretty racy further back in the pack. So there we go. Jordan Missig looks like he's all over the back of Raider Nicol. There we are. So Nicol has got a little bit of pressure. And apologies, because I think that's actually the Evan Slater car. So Nicol is chasing down D'Orlando. Slater, meanwhile, in the 35, also a black and gold car, has got Jordan Missig all over the back of him. And that was the section of the racetrack where we had that issue earlier. The top Pro 1500 drivers using plenty of curb coming down through the museum chicane. And the two front runners of Pro 1500 starting to break away. So D'Orlando has pedal to the metal. He's being pushed along by Raider Nicol rather. Meanwhile, Evan Slater is falling into the clutches of Jordan Missig. Out in front, we expected, as there's a little bit of smoke. There's an issue for car 5, and that was Chip Romer. Some kind of issue into turn 1 for the Stella Artois driver in the Platinum class car. Seems to be full speed now, but he is quickly falling back into the sight of D'Orlando. And this is going to be the challenge for the Pro 1500 drivers. You can see them there on screen. They're coming up to the Platinum guys. Meanwhile, those Platinum drivers are driving very, very fast in those 425 brake horsepower, 380 foot-pound Ford EcoBoost SR10s. But the weight of that engine and that car just means that it's a little bit slower around the corners. Of course, there's a lot of corners at Barber Motorsports Park. And that means the 1500cc motorcycle-derived power plant SR3 cars are very, very quick. And in them are some very, very quick drivers. So Mackay Stevens seems to be getting a bit more of a run back onto the gearbox of John Field. We expected him to be a little racier perhaps. Further back you can see coming out of that final corner the battle for Pro 1500. And D'Orlando now has got mirrors full of his rival. So we'll see as they come out into Charlotte's Web. We're looking a little bit further back from these leaders coming through screen. And D'Orlando's just got a little bit of a break on Raiden Nicol, but they all concertina down into the hairpin. Chip Roma is ahead. And interestingly enough, it's Slater who has now got ahead of Nicol, it would appear, on track. So that's only just happened. The timing is still showing Nicol ahead of Slater. But my eyes don't deceive me. I think we'll find that Slater might be ahead. They may have deceived me though, because these two cars, black gold and silver, look very, very similar on screen. And there's almost a pass for the lead for Pro 1500. That is Raiden Nicol right on the gearbox of D'Orlando in the Graham Rahal performance car. As they come down the front straightaway into turn one. What can Raiden Nicol do in turn one? Nothing at the moment, but he was very, very quick around turn two and up over the crest. You can see there at the moment that D'Orlando just stretches his legs a little bit. But he's got Dushelski in the 88 ahead of him, who's effectively out of place. And it's going to cause a little bit of chaos, I fear, for the leaders in Pro 1500. Now, Dushelski typically is right up amongst it and would be duking it out for the win himself, but obviously got caught up in that melee. So Dushelski has released one of those cars. Oh, someone runs wide, and that was Slater. That was definitely Slater, who ran wide just near the Radical Hospitality tent into turn 14. And he's had a massive moment. Now, Dushelski does get out the way. That's the sign of a true competitor. He knows he's not in the race. He's just going to let the guys past. Meanwhile, it's still Chris McMurray in Pro 1340 from PJ Hyatt, Sulio Almeida, and then Blake McGovern, Keith McGovern, Ben Blander, Carl Fredrickson, Eric Griffin, a number of cars from the Crown Concepts Apex Motor Club stable coming over here to Barber Motorsports Park, a big trek from Arizona. John Field still with Mackay Stevens behind him, navigating some traffic as they come around the final couple of corners. So Field getting balked. Could this be the opportunity that Stevens needs? We'll wait and see. That's traffic. And Mackay he's had a huge run on John Field, who went to the inside. Mackay tries around the outside. They're side by side through one, side by side through two. John Field is the last of the late breakers. Can he keep it? No, he can't. We've got a new race leader in the Platinum class. It's Mackay Stevens for Rhino Racing with Team Stradale, who leads down into the hairpin. Field has a look immediately, but thinks better off it. Now, what can Field do? He's so used to leading the Platinum class. Being an America Le Mans Series former champion, you can see the grass on that camera shot there from the commotion earlier in the race. Wow. Well, talk about being in the hot seat now. Mackay Stevens with some work to do and all the pressure. But he seems to be lapping up that pressure. Slowly pulling away from John Field. Of course, there is a little bit of aero wash that develops on the front of these cars. The front splitter isn't quite as effective behind another car. So John Field will have to work extra hard, but he's extremely quick around these final couple of corners. You can see he looks pretty racy on the gearbox as they again start to approach a slower car. That's the 33. And the 33 of Eric Griffin, who joins us in the series for the first time. He's making his debut, keeping it clean, and it's allowed John Field to have another look. And now Field gets balked a little bit. In fact, they both do. What will happen? They split! Eric Griffin going down through into the hairpin. Amazing stuff. And Field doesn't get the opportunity, though, to have a look on the inside. That would have been hairy if you were Mr. Griffin, I think, having two Platinum class SR10s pushing either side of you, using all the road and a little bit of dirt. You can see the front splitter there. A great shot of the 22 of Mackay Stevens. The McDonald's sponsorship on the side. We welcome McDonald's as a partner this year in the series. We've got some great partners with HRX, Motul, Hankook, of course, USAC, Sunoco. And McDonald's for this year really stepping things up in the Radical Cup North America Series. John Field definitely has a slightly different line through the final couple of corners here. Again, he just seems to get the edge through turn 17. But he's got some work to do. Now we'll try and pick up the leaders in Pro 1500. They're running 7th, 8th, 9th on the racetrack. And they should be coming through the final couple of turns, I think. So Slater has got ahead of Nicole, and D'Orlando is still in the lead of Pro 1500. Through shot goes Austin Riley's car. He's an easy one to pick. And then behind him, we're looking at David Albon, Corey Nouveau, Rahul Venkatesh. Side-by-side action again through turn 1 and through turn 2. So the race has settled down a little bit after that chaotic start. And another look into the hairpin. So who's that? That's the 61, I think, of Mike Anzaldi. Mike Anzaldi, a long-time Radical competitor. Mentioned he had finished runner-up to Austin Riley in the Pro 1340 Championship a couple of years ago. It's been some great battles over the years, and it's great to see so many drivers remain in the series. In fact, it's remarkable, really, when you think that there's in the order of 1,500 Radicals throughout the USA and Canada, and a number of drivers have now had their 6th, 7th, and 8th Radical. In fact, Jim Booth, I think, is on his 8th. So once you get into a Radical, you seem to get a little bit stuck. It's a great formula, and it is Mike Anzaldi who's having a look. In fact, defending from Mike Anzaldi. That's really, really tight through turn 1. So that's Anzaldi and Rahul Venkatesh just in front from Radical Northwest, and they're having a great battle. Arul, you can see, is just a little bit slower around turn 2 than Anzaldi. Will pick them up as they go over the crest and down into turn 5. Anzaldi to the inside. But Arul's a little bit later on the brakes. Anzaldi goes later still, jockeying for position down into the hairpin. And there's more behind them. As I think that's PJ Hyatt, who's having a run on someone as well. So Sulio Almeida has got ahead of PJ Hyatt. And he's now second in Pro 1340 from Chris McMurray. After PJ Hyatt in third, we're looking at Blake McGovern still with his father Keith behind. Ben Blander up in the mix as well. So 20 minutes remain, just under 20 minutes remain. John Field has just gone quickest with a 1:22.9. So he's pushing hard to get back into the lead of the Platinum class. Nick D'Orlando seems pretty comfortable, although Evan Slater is around the mark. He was a little bit slower on that last lap, and I fear that the traffic's just the ebb and flow of the traffic is causing a few issues down the front straightaway. The 158 in that beautiful blue car of Mike Ellis. And over the crest. So blue flag being shown to Ellis. And one of the Primal Racing competitors too. It's the 128 of David Mason, who's joined us from Atlanta as well. Atlanta Motorsport Park. A lot of members joining us out here. And the Radicals, of course, really prominent at all the top country clubs around the country. From Spring Mountain to Apex to Atlanta, Monticello. See cars in many places and a few more to be announced very shortly. Of course, you can start in Radicals at track days. And down into the hairpin, there's some good racing still going with Arul Venkatesh. He is fighting hard now with Austin Riley not far behind him. And that's the battle with Jack Yang, I think, there's Chris Hunn in there as well. Wayne Williams coming through. We haven't talked much about Wayne, a dirt track star turned radical star, and really, I think, found his feet in Toronto last year, and we're happy to go up to Toronto again this year. Radical Cup joining IndyCar for 4 events this year, as they did last year. And Wayne Williams was very quick in the wet at the opening round last year at NOLA Motorsports Park. In fact, being a dirt track guy, he was very comfortable with the sideways action and found it harder to come to grips with leaning on a true downforce car like this Radical SR10. So Mackay Stevens still in the lead from John Field. Ryan Booth doing a solid job on his debut in the Radical Cup North America Series. Mentioned this morning that Ryan's no stranger to Radical, but it's been a while. He won the European Masters Championship with his father, Jem, back in 2017. Ran in IMSA Lights, as it gets very close there with Arul Venkatesh just coming across the front. And Ryan was very strong in open wheel cars. He's been doing a lot of rally. Actually, that is the 13 of Arul Venkatesh, who he's got the elbows out. He's not letting too many guys behind him through. Doesn't seem to have the pace in this race as he perhaps had in qualifying, but he's doing a great job. Chris Hunn can't get by him. Chris McMurray's also in that area of the racetrack. Whatever happened to car 5 earlier? He seems to be okay. John Field just trying to pick up exactly where he is. There's some SR10s looking pretty racy going down into the museum. But it's Mackay Stevens who's doing a solid job for Rhino Racing and Team Stradale. Just over 10 minutes remain. And the 22 starts another lap. John Field has got some work to do if he's going to get another win here in the Platinum class. Mackay will come over that crest in just a moment. Now there's a lot of traffic ahead of Mackay Stevens. Arul Venkatesh is still fending off a gaggle of cars that includes Chris McMurray, Celio Almeida, and a number of those 1340 front runners. Chris Hunn is in the mix there too. And that's our outright leader there with John Field behind. So could this be the opportunity that Field needs? Mackay Stevens picks off one as they start that flat out section through the high speed S's. Blue flags will be shown. Can Field use this to his advantage? Or will the traffic work against him? I fear that the traffic has played a role in Field clambering on the back of Stevens, who seems to be using all of his IMSA GT4 experience to pick off some of these slower cars. Down into turn 1, Stevens not close enough to have a look. But he has passed Almeida. There's John Field. So he's close enough. If a little mistake is made or there's just a moment. Now Mackay is coming past Chris McMurray in the number 2, who shows the impressive performance of the brakes on that 1340. It does the switchback. It's a little bit cheeky to do to the outright leader, but Chris McMurray knows a thing about racing too. Of course, he's a Le Mans competitor, loves his motorsport. He's done all sorts of things as well, LMP2, GT cars, and has come back to join Radical. Drives an extraordinary amount out at Apex Motor Club in Arizona. So if you've been following along with the 3 classes, the green is Pro 1340, the Dayglow red is Pro 1500, and the platinum right at the pointy end of the field is the Dayglow yellow on the rear wing and on the front splitters. So there we go. The 22 starts another lap. John Field will dive to the inside. Will he get Arul Venkatesh as well? He won't. A little bit of dust being kicked up there on the exit. John Field really hustling hard. He wants to get past these back markers. Meanwhile, they're having their own race, of course. Entitled to the racetrack just as much as that man, John Field. And it's getting pretty racy for the second and third step in the Pro 1340 as well. Just as the back of that train of cars is Almeida and PJ Hyatt. And they are second and third in Pro 1340. Almeida in that black and gold car. There's PJ Hyatt behind. Chris McMurray's taking a bit of a breather with a couple of out-of-class cars just ahead of them. Radical Hospitality tent back there on the right-hand side of the screen, and a lot of friends, family, VIPs and guests enjoying everything that Radical has to offer at the racetrack here as John Field finishes another lap. You can see that gaggle of cars behind him. And in that is the 1340 leader. So it's McMurray who sits second in that train of cars. It's Arul Venkatesh who's still got the elbows out. And we've had a spin. So in the hairpin there, that's I think that might be Mike Ellis. Now he's on the inside of the hairpin. He's in a reasonably good position. Whether or not the race director, Bo Barfield, will elect to get out the safety car or not, who knows? Hopefully we can keep green. It is pretty safe down there. Must have been a pretty lazy spin for Mike Ellis. So the top three in Platinum: Mackay Stevens, John Field, Ryan Booth. In Pro 1500, Nick D'Orlando has pretty much led from start to finish. Ray Nicol is back up to second place, ahead of Evan Slater. Then it's Jordan Missing. And we have got a caution. Right. Well, will this turn into a green-white checker scenario? 7 minutes remain. I think there is time to get a emergency truck and tow that car to safety. I assume that's the issue there at Charlotte's Web. See the telephone box as well. Lots of amazing and interesting art around Barber Motorsports Park. I think there's a lady hanging somewhere from an overpass bridge. There's all sorts of things to check out around this beautiful campus. And of course, one of the world's best museums, let alone the best motorcycle museum here at Barber as well. An absolute must for everyone that comes to this circuit. So the race is neutralized once again with just over 6 minutes remaining. This will give a few people a breather. Of course, it may close up the field a little bit too. And if we do get that green-white checker scenario, you can imagine that John Field will be looking for that. Of course, it's the worst possible scenario for the leaders, Mackay Stevens, D'Orlando, and Chris McMurray. They would probably prefer that this remains under full course caution till the checker. USAC safety car just coming around. Well, would we see a fairy tale? Ray Nicol is in P2 in Pro 1500. 5.5 minutes remain. What kind of magic can the guys at Barber Motorsports Park do to get that car out of harm's way? Of course, one of the biggest problems is there's 36 cars in the field. You need to get everyone packed up so that the emergency crews can have a bit of time to go and collect things. With under 5, it's starting to look a little bit like we might end this race under caution. Fingers crossed. Now, just hope that it might be something like they'll just try to get that driver out of the car. We do have a truck on course, so there is a truck responding and going down to tow that stricken car. Yeah, and I think that is Mike Ellis, unfortunately. Now 4 minutes remain on the clock. The cars are coming around the top section of the circuit. In fact, they're just coming onto the front straightaway. The snatch strap is on that car. There is a nice little hole behind Charlotte's Web, just to the back of that circuit. The car is going off. Now, whether he can refire, we could see this go back green. The emergency crews have done a tremendous job. The car has the lights on. He's trying to refire it. At the moment, that car isn't going anywhere. Now, he is now. So there we go. The emergency vehicle should be able to find a hole. Oh. The Apex car is going again. The safety car is going around the accident with, or the incident with the field. Just under 3 minutes remain. It's not a long lap here at Barber Motorsports Park. About a 120 lap. So it's quite conceivable that we will get a grandstand finish in the Radical Cup North America Series. Look out for the 37 of John Field if we get a restart. Look out for Ryan Booth too, who will be showing his stuff. Clint Field could be in the mix as well in the Platinum Class cars. Raiden Nicol, what can he do? Can he get a maiden win? Can he make his debut, the best possible one in this series, by getting past Nick D'Orlando? And what will happen in Pro 1340? Will Chris McMurray hang on, or will Almeida or Hyatt make the move? We expect to have one green flag lap here. The safety car is in. Great job by the emergency crews. It's time to go racing. A one-lap dash after 40 minutes of the Radical Cup North America. Race 4 of the championship, and they're 3, 4, 5 wide as they come down into the front straightaway. We'll see what happens here. Hopefully everyone will get through turn 1. Side-by-side action again as out-of-class cars fight with in-class cars. Look out for those colours. And we've got someone in the gravel trap. Might see a replay of that in a moment. Some slow cars as well, so they're all spinning in. Yeah, there's at least 2 cars that have been stuck out in turn 2. Meanwhile, someone's pulled off. I think that's the Ryspec car of 88 into the hairpin as well. So all sorts of chaos here in the Radical Cup during this one-lap dash. It's always a bit of a risk. What do they say? Yellows breed yellows. Well, there isn't time for another yellow here just to check a flag. That's the 37 of John Field, so he's gone out. But it's Mackay Stevens who will come around, we think, to take the checker. What a race it's been for young Mackay. He comes around the final corner and is greeted with the checker flag here at Barber Motorsports Park for Rhino Racing and Team Stradale. Now, what is going to happen with the 1500 class cars? I'm trying to pick it out, and it looks like Nicol has done it. Unbelievable. So Raiden Nicol has won in his first race in the Radical Cup North America Series. The young gun from Atlanta has made it through that chaos of that final tour to take 4th overall, an impressive 4th overall, but more crucially to finish on the top step of the podium. from D'Orlando, and Evan Slater missing will just miss out on the podium steps in Pro 1500. And it's PJ Hyatt. Could that be? We'll just double check that. It looks like in Pro 1340, it is still Chris McMurray from PJ Hyatt. But we've had a bit of chaos there as well, because falling back has been Almeida. So it's Chris McMurray from PJ Hyatt. And then third place in Pro 1340 should be Blake McGovern. That would be an impressive debut for him. John Field looking dejected in that SR10. It was all to play for in that final tour, and unfortunately he came unglued. Well, congratulations to Mackay Stevens taking not a debut win in the series, but certainly his debut win in an SR10. Congratulations too to Raiden Nicol, who finishes 4th overall, but wins first time out in Pro 1500. What a star. And then if we look a little bit further back, we'll pick up the winner in Pro 1340. And just looking at these results, there he is, Chris McMurray in position 18. If you look down the order, there's some great names in here. John Field classified 15th overall, even though he ended up in the gravel trap. Of course, he had passed a number of cars. Good job too by Rul Venkatesh. We saw him with his elbows out, holding up some cars that were definitely a little bit quicker. And PJ Hyatt, second place for him in Pro 1340. Blake McGovern, great debut from him as well. Keith as well, his father. And the list goes on. Almeida there being dumped to 30th overall in that final tour. Well, it's time to go and celebrate with some champagne down at the podium. It has been a bit of action here for race 1 at Barber Motorsports Park with the Radical Cup North America Series. We'll be back for 2 more races tomorrow. Can't wait to bring you all of that action. And it's time for a few cold ones up in the Radical Cup. Hospitality 10, I think. A few drivers have earned that after that. But we'll see you tomorrow.